Hello, class. Today I want to talk to you about how to give a really great presentation. That means thinking about two things: thinking about the psychology of your audience and thinking about how memory works and how to best get them to remember what you're saying because they can't be convinced unless they remember it. Today I'm going to talk about the roadmap, how to outline your presentation as you begin so that people know what to expect. It really is making a promise. Then I'm going to talk about how to perform it in the best possible way, how to use your audience and use the psychology of your audience to try and have a more powerful impact. I'm going to talk about the assertion evidence method, which is the only method I've been able to find that's been thoroughly empirically researched to show that people have better memory retention after doing it. And then I want to talk briefly about how to prepare for your presentation. So let's start with the roadmap. Whenever you start a presentation, it's important that you give an outline. You give a roadmap of what, in other words, you're making promises about what you're going to be doing during that presentation. First, you start with the hook, which in my case was talking about psychology and memory. That's how we do it in this, but it could be, your hook could be anything. It could be something personal, but how the topic affects you. It could be something intellectual about a puzzle that you think needs to be solved. The next stage is to give promises. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm promising, or what I just did, I promised what I was going to do during the course of the outline. Here it is, that outline. This, I've showed you exactly what I was going to do. Those are my promises that I'm making for the next 5 minutes of this presentation. Then you fulfill those promises using the assertion evidence method. And we'll talk about the assertion evidence method very soon. And then you conclude by revisiting the hook. Okay, so you conclude by saying, here's the promises, here's how I fulfilled them, and let's get back to the hook so you can think about it in the way that I wanted you to think about it. If you do those things, then you will really affect them, and hopefully they'll be compelled, and I know that they'll remember it, and that's really all that you can ask for. So next we're going to talk about the performance. That is to say, get inside the head of your audience. The first thing to remember is that enthusiasm is contagious. Leslie Knope is one of the most enthusiastic characters on television, or she was when she did Parks and Rec. And she would say, I am big enough to admit that I am often inspired by myself, right? She is so enthusiastic that she even catches her own enthusiasm. That's really crucial when you're giving a presentation, to get up and be enthusiastic, be passionate about your subject. Even if you don't care about it, people will be more interested in what you want to hear if they think you care about it. So if you want to succeed, if you want them to remember it, and if you want to get inside, then you need to use that psychology to get them caring about it. And the way that people care about it, because we're such social creatures, is by seeing someone else care about it. The other thing is to remember about the psychology is that we can only pay attention to one thing at a time. So spend your audience's attention wisely. Okay? You have three things as a presenter that you're using. You have yourself, that's your body, you have your words that people can listen to, and you have your PowerPoint presentation or your Prezi presentation. You don't need a Prezi presentation necessarily, but I do find that it is often helpful, especially when you use the method that I'm using right now, which is the assertion evidence method. But make sure that if you do use your PowerPoint presentation, that you start by reading it, the entire thing, along with your audience. And that means that you don't want to have very much to read, right? You want to have one sentence, and that's it per slide. And then after that, direct their attention across the PowerPoint slide so that they're looking at each thing, right? So right now, I want you to look at the PowerPoint slide. I want you to look at the PowerPoint slide on the PowerPoint slide. I want you to look at the words, the text on the PowerPoint slide that the speaker is speaking about it, and then the speaker, right? So you can direct people's attention by just asking them. Audiences want to come along with you. So, you don't want them to look like this. Now look at me. Right? So now I just used all of the tools that I have, using my voice to direct your attention, using my voice to make a point, and then using my facial expression to try and get you to understand a different concept. The least commonly used, and the thing that should be used a lot more, is you as a presenter. But that's sort of next level stuff, if you know what I mean. So, okay, once you figure out how you want to present it and you practice your performance, you've done your outline, then you need to actually convince people of something. Okay. And the best way to do that is using the assertion evidence method. That's because the assertion evidence is an empirically proven way to use attention effectively. The NSF actually funded a huge study, and this is the only that I know of, the only empirically proven way to use to do a PowerPoint presentation. And what is the assertion evidence method? Well, first, you see at the top, you have a one sentence assertion. And then below it, you have evidence. And then I explain it. That's the commentary. So you have assertion, look to the right, assertion, evidence, and commentary. So let's talk about assertion first. A full sentence assertion is proven more effective than a one or two word heading. If you see the gray bars on the left, that's how many questions audience members got correctly when they had a full sentence assertion. The bars on the right, the black bars, are how many questions they got correct when they had a heading or a title instead of a full sentence assertion followed by bullet points. A full sentence assertion is what you want. It needs to state your entire claim in one sentence. Next, a visual evidence is more memorable and convincing than bullets. So if you see the slide on the left, it's got that picture of coal and a map. On the right, or iron and a map. On the right, it has a bunch of bullet points and a map. And you see that on the left, they also have the full sentence assertion. Now, if you look closely, this is from that same study. The image on the left led to 63% recall. And the image on the right led to only 46% recall. So visual evidence is more memorable and convincing than bullets. Try not to use bullets. In fact, you should never use bullets. Just a sentence and some sort of visual evidence. Sometimes the visual evidence has to be text, such as when I use that Leslie Knope quote, but oftentimes you can use pictures. You are more convincing when you explain the slide as you go rather than script it out in advance. That's because when you are engaged, so is your audience, right? This goes back to psychology. When you're enthusiastic, your audience wants to be enthusiastic with you. And when you're engaged, your audience wants to engage with you. That is not true if you're reading something. If you're just reading something by rote, something that you don't have to think about as you're going, then you're not going to be as effective a communicator because you're not going to be engaged, and your audience won't want to be engaged either. So don't write your script. Or if you do write your script, read it a few times and then forget it. Just do it on the fly as you go. Put up the slide, think about it, and then explain it. You can take your time explaining it, but you do need to explain your slides on the go. How do you practice this? How do you practice explaining those slides on the go, for example? Well, you practice on a video camera, in the mirror, or with your peers, or you can line up all your cats. I know you probably have 30 cats just like this weird photo, and practice to your cats. Maybe you could hold a cat treat or something and get them to pay attention to you for long enough to present the entire thing. Seriously, though, practice. That's the point, is that you need to practice in advance. Even if you only do it once. If you do it once or twice, you'll be better off. And then if you can time yourself, that's even the best. And the reason is because you really want to connect with your audience. You want to make sure that you're connecting with them psychologically, right? And that requires that sort of fluency with your slides and knowing what's coming up and being able to cue them up for it. You need to be able to connect with their memory. And that involves using that spatial, using all of the methods that we talked about here, including being very specific about where attention should be, and also using the assertion evidence method. So send your questions and your cat practice videos to me at Nuriel Heckler at ucdenver.edu. Heckler has a K in it, Heckler. Or you can text me at 970-236-6311. I hope that you enjoyed this video and got something out of it, and best of luck in all of your presentations. Make them great.